Happy Sunday, April 12th. This is the News You Can't Snooze edition. I have a lot to cover, so let's get right into it. First, I'm sure you're well aware that the Artemis has landed safely. The trip went as well as possibly could have gone, so yay. Definitely, some companies are going to find ways to profit off of this. Nutella has already started. They have an ad campaign out there showing this famous image now of the Nutella jar floating through the cockpit. Donald Trump, of course, has decided to take credit that I could not be more proud. More proud of what? What part of this did you have anything to do with? But hey, he's president, so I'll let it go. But he goes on to say, we'll be doing it again. And then next step, Mars, President Donald J. Trump, which Elon not only liked, but he then had his minions repeat this over and over again on X. So Elon is extremely excited about this, which is why I appreciate this comment from Tristan Snell on X that Elon Musk did not go to the moon, Jeff Bezos didn't go to the moon, NASA went to the moon. This is noteworthy because had something bad happened on this trip, Elon would have been the first to be in the Oval Office saying, well, Mr. President, just kick everyone else out and make SpaceX the de facto NASA. That absolutely would have happened, and thank God nothing bad happened. And so Elon, SpaceX is valuable, to be clear, and it does amazing things, to be clear. I don't want SpaceX, though, to be our only way of getting into space. So, yay. Moving on to economic news. The unemployment report came out, and it was not as bad as was possibly feared, but it wasn't exactly good either. Over the past year, the job creation has basically been flat on its back. There is nothing, we're not, it's been so weak that the number of people entering the workforce is greater than the number of people getting new jobs. So that's not a good year. Also, not good news over the week was a CPI report that came out that showed inflation is ticking up. No surprise there. But given how they measure this and when they measured it, it actually didn't even have much chance to factor in the inflation due to the war. So the fact that it was ticking up being measured early in March simply means that the data is going to get much worse going forward. Which begs the question, what does the Federal Reserve do? The Federal Reserve has a dual mandate, both to lower unemployment, get as many people employed as possible, and to lower inflation. Well, right now, with inflation going up, that would indicate that the Federal Reserve cannot lower interest rates. But if people are losing their jobs, then they have a reason to lower interest rates. And tie that to this news from the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment. This is a measure that goes back 74 years. So this includes the time I remember in the late 70s during the oil shock when we saw lines of people waiting to get into gas stations and gas stations running out of gasoline. The Consumer Sentiment Index didn't go as low then as it is now. Record low, 74 years, record low Consumer Sentiment Index. And keep in mind that two-thirds of the American economy is consumer spending. So if everyone is pessimistic, which this is indicating that it's the most pessimistic consumers have ever been, then you have to expect that they're going to spend less. And when two-thirds of the economy is spending less, then by definition, you're going to have a recession. I am only surprised that economists have not come out and said that it is very clear there is going to be a recession. To me, it's a fait accompli. It is something that is going to happen no matter what. No idea why more economists have not come out and said something that to me is clear as it's clear as day. Anyhow, moving on to some Trump-Iran news. So the president has said the U.S. is in the process of clearing out the strait, that this is going to be a favor to other countries. I think this is a little premature, Mr. President, because Iran can put mines back in as easily as they want. And the only place, if you know how the strait is, I don't have the graphic for this, but where they're mining is the main way through the strait. There is a way to get around the strait if you go up really close to Iran. That's the few boats that are going through, they're going there, but no American approved ship can go there because it's so close to Iran that they're incredibly vulnerable. So the mines do have to be cleared for the main shipping route to be open, but Iran doesn't care if that ever gets cleared because, in all truth, they now control the strait. Congratulations, Mr. President. And the president a couple days ago invited invited Asian oil tankers to come to the US to fill up on oil. Okay? And so this graphic shows all the tankers, the empty tankers headed for, it actually shows them headed for the port in Corpus Christi. Well, I actually have pictures of that port back when my sister used to live there. Anyhow, those tankers filling up with US oil means there will be less US oil to be converted to gasoline in the US. So, what does that mean for gasoline prices in the US? You don't have to be an economist to know that when you reduce supply, the price goes up. So, congratulations, American. We are going to have higher gasoline prices moving forward. That's also clear as can be. In political news, there was a huge overperformance in Wisconsin and Florida this past week for Democrats. And in a special election in Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene's district to elect her replacement, the Republican won, but it was a super red district, and the Democrat overperformed massively. So all good news for Democrats when it comes to the elections of this past week. And as I covered on yesterday or the day before, the Trump allies are turning on him. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. The Cook Political Report is the most respected political analysis out there. And they just changed the Iowa governor's race to a toss-up. Now, you have to understand, in the Cook world, they take incumbency very seriously, that incumbents usually win. In this case, the incumbent's not running for re-election, but they still have incumbency built in that Iowa's had a Republican governor for so long that you have to go with the bias that a Republican's going to be elected simply because we've had Republican in the office for so long. The fact that they've moved this to toss-up is after they've seen internal polling from both the Democrats and the Republicans that show that Rob Sand is winning. So it really should be lean Democrat, but again, Cook is very, very cautious. So this is fantastic news for Iowa Democrats, and it's made news across the country, the political world at least. Trump has made an offer to pardon. His thing was, he said, anyone who's come within 200 feet of the Oval Office, I will give a pardon to. Now, he did this in such a way that anytime someone's going to ask Carolyn Levitt in a press conference about this, she's going to say, "Oh, he was joking. You press people just need to take it as a joke." Well, so many things that Trump jokes about, he then does. So it's wonderful that the president has just made it clear, commit all the crimes you can, I will pardon you. But he also happens to be, the White House is in D.C., which is controlled by Democrats. And most of the crimes they're committing are commercial crimes, monetary crimes, of which involves New York, where there's an attorney general in New York who's also a Democrat. So he may be able to pardon people from federal crimes, but these are also, to be clear, state and local crimes. So I think some people are going to end up going to jail here. At least they should. Let's be clear. The corruption's unbelievable. Nick Fuentes, who is the most racist, unbelievable person on earth, who has dined with Donald Trump and Kanye, he's joined Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, Megyn Kelly, and Candace Owens in calling for President Trump to resign. Interesting also is that Piers Morgan, who appeared on the Celebrity Apprentice, believe it or not, I used to watch The Apprentice, and the Piers Morgan season was good. He won this season, and Piers Morgan is a douchebag, to be clear, but he does do some interesting interviews, and he has been a pretty solid supporter of the president. He's not anymore. He's definitely turned on the president in this past week. And on Friday night, Bill Maher, who it was just over a year ago that Bill Maher went and had dinner at the White House, and Bill Bill has been pretty much sucking Cheeto dick since then. And on Friday night, he made it clear, look, he admitted that he supported the invasion of Iran initially, but now he's like, yeah, that was a big mistake and it should not have happened. Oh, well, thank you, Bill. You've finally seen the light. Bill's actually gone so crazy. He used to be a solid Democrat at one time, although he didn't support Al Gore. Anyhow, let it go, Steve. So it'll be interesting to see how many Democrats are now not willing to go on Bill's show, because Bill has actually done enough now where I don't. It's a calculus. I don't know if I'd go on a show if I were a Democrat or not. He's gone that far crazy. Speaking of Megyn Kelly has now said that after 14 years inside Fox News, I'm exposing what viewers refuse to see, how the network morphed from news into a propaganda machine designed purely to cheerlead wars, worship Trump, and feed you manufactured rage instead of facts. Well, sister, welcome to the resistance. Hunter Biden, who I wish to God I never had to hear read anything about again, has challenged Don Jr. and Eric to a cage match. I can't watch MMA. I can't watch boxing. One of my best friends is in a Muay Thai. I told him I could never watch one of his matches because seeing people I love get hit, whatever, I just can't watch it. But this is something, not only would I watch, I'd be willing to chip in some money for the pay-per-view because my only hope is that all three of them have to go to the hospital afterwards. Not die. I don't want them to die, but if they can like beat the hell out of each other, mm, that is worth the pay-per-view. And then, of course, I have to move on to the Pope, who would not approve of the message I just said. But the Pope has definitely decided to take on the president, and so he said, "God does not bless any conflict. Anyone who is a disciple of Christ, the Prince of Peace, is never on the side of those who once wielded the sword and today drops bombs." Also, since the Department of Defense has decided to take on the Pope, he has decided not to come to America for our 250th anniversary, which he was originally planning to do. And he has told his inner circle that he will not be coming to the United States. Definitely for this year, he will not be coming, and most likely will not come until Trump is out of power. That's incredible. An American Pope has decided that he is not safe in the United States. So sorry, Catholics, no papal visit. In other news, some big other news of the week. If you thought your time of COVID was weird and having to stock up on toilet paper, given how things are going bizarre in a whole lot of ways, buy a couple of extra, buy. If you're in America, buy some extra toilet paper. This is a warehouse in Canada housing paper products, but mostly toilet paper, that's up in smoke. So again, once you reduce the supply of something, you can expect the price of it to go up and possible shortages. So if you're in America or Canada, buy some toilet paper. Um, I'm not going to comment much on this since I'm happily unmarried, but I guess when women pass gas, it smells worse than men. So this has been a banner week for news for men because we got this news that women's farts smell worse than ours. And we also received the news that the more you masturbate, the lower you have a chance of getting prostate cancer. I don't know what to say. That's about as good a news as guys can get. I mean, really? Um, when I was growing up, every Sunday the Des Moines Register had the back page of Section A was a summary of Iowa news, national news, international news, and anyhow, it was a summary of all news. And I devoured that every week. I think for as long as I continue to do this vlog, Sunday's going to be the day that I do this type of summary of the week's news because throughout the week there are all these little stories. I'm like, I want to talk about it, whatever. I'm going to continue to go theme per day, but then save for Sunday the stories that I didn't get a chance to talk about. And with that, I hope you're all well, and I'll see you tomorrow.